Hello and welcome to the Punting Green Ryder Cup preview, sponsored by PricedUp and brought to you by oddschecker. I'm your host, George Ellick. Delighted to be joined, as I have been for the majority of or all the Punting Green episodes, Ginger Joe, and oddschecker's Niall Lyons, who has been a staple on all Ryder Cup previews oddschecker have done in the past as well. Niall, how are you getting on?
Yeah, not too bad, George. As we were just talking off air there, a bit jealous of your plans for the weekend, though.
Yeah, we're recording this. I mean, in 24 hours' time from now, I'll be over the Atlantic heading to New York to go and watch the Ryder Cup in Bethpage, which is exciting, I've got to say. But yeah, I know, Noel, you haven't always been the biggest Ryder Cup fan over the years, but Joe, I'm judging. This is the first one of these we've done together, but I'm getting the feeling this is a tournament that gets your juices flowing.
Yeah, very much so. And thanks for rubbing that in, by the way, that you're going to be there and enjoying
Not
the
brought it up, not
atmosphere.
me. I wasn't going to say
That's
anything.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But no, look, I am really excited. I agree with Niall. It's a difficult event as far as punting goes because it's a completely different format. I suppose you've got to look at a few different details to find your squads. But look, ultimately, I can't wait, and I'm quite firm on my decision this week, and hopefully we can get a result.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that in just a second because you guys agree on one or two things, and I've had access to see both your selections before we came on air, and there's a couple of bits of agreement, but one very strong disagreement that we'll get to at the top of the show. But if you haven't got a Priced Up account, make sure you go and sign up for one over at pricedup.bet. I would really recommend it. Not only do you have full coverage across sports, but also there's the trader chat function. But crucially, there is the price boost page, and if you go on price boost, you can see across. I'm looking at it today. You've got boosts at the racing at Listowel, Kempton, and Redcar. You've got boosts across the football slate this evening in the EFL Cup, and then of course you have some golf boosts ahead of the Ryder Cup, which we'll get onto in just a second. So if you haven't already got a Priced Up bet, make sure you sign up for one, a Priced Up account. Make sure you sign up for one at pricedup.bet. And there is a link in the show description, which you click on, and you can sign up for an account there. Now let's get into the prices. As I say, I'll read out the kind of the main prices on the main page now, but there are a couple of boosts to go alongside them. But we have got, in terms of the Ryder Cup winner, we are looking at USA at 4-6 to win the Ryder Cup. Europe at 13-8. The tie is 12-1. But one of these are being boosted. USA to win the Ryder Cup being boosted from 4-6 out to 3-4, so 1.75 in decimal. But Joe, as the Punting Green regular, as this is your show, we'll start with you and your headline selection, and you are all in on Team Europe.
Yeah, absolutely, George. 5 point win straight up on Europe to take the victory. Now, I know a lot of I've been looking at a lot of sort of previews and a few bits and pieces that people are talking about, and the majority are saying that this is heavily in America's favourite. And when you deep into that a little bit further, the reasoning is often that there's a home advantage. Well, for me, if you take that home advantage away, I actually think we have the stronger team, certainly from what the players have actually achieved this year. I know at the top you've got the likes of Scotty and Bryson for America, but as you start to look down the field, you've got Ben Griffin, who's a rookie, Colin Morikawa not in good form, Xander Schauffele out of form, Pat Cantlay out of form, Russell Henley not suited to this track, Harris English not suited to this track. It certainly doesn't fill me with confidence, George. For me, I actually think over the two teams, we by far have the strongest squad if you're basing it on this season alone. Now, again, it depends how you want to look at the tournament, but that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm not too fussed about the home advantage. For me, I like to look at it on paper, what we've got, and ultimately for me, the strongest team by quite some way is the Europeans this year.
We'll have a bit of back and forth on this, and Joe will come back to this in a second. But Niall, you put up previously on your oddschecker column USA when they were 4-5 that they're in a bit now, albeit you can get that 3-4 boosted with Priced Up. And on Joe's point there about home advantage, look, I'm someone majority of my work is in football. I find it kind of baffling and unquantifiable how home advantage can have such a massive say when it comes to football matches. But in the Ryder Cup, as I think in particular we've seen in the last couple of years in Europe, I guess it's more, it's more understandable why conditions can be made to suit the team who are hosting. Is that the case? Is that the basis of your theory this time around?
Well, it's definitely part of it. And I did notice you've already got your EFL mention in. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, of course.
I
Twice
think there's
actually, I think,
probably a
wasn't it?
bet on it.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's part of the reason. Obviously, if we were being really sensible punters about this, we probably wouldn't have a bet in the outright. Obviously, I've got an ounce of value with the Yanks tipping them up at 4-5 a couple of weeks ago. So, there's an argument that that's a fair bet. But home advantage in terms of Bethpage, it's not going to be your typical, US Open style layout with the high rough and the course playing over. Well, it will play long, but the fairways won't be as narrow as they would be for US Open. So when Bradley sets it up, I think it's geared towards the longer hitters in his team. I think there's the majority of his team would tend to bracket themselves as guys who overpower golf courses, and I think that's the way it'll go. I wouldn't totally agree with Joe that they've got totally the stronger side, because maybe if you look at it on paper, in terms of just names, quite possibly, but I don't think John Rahm's in anywhere near the sort of form that what he was. People can dance around his top tens on the live tour all they want, but uh, for me, that's not a sign of great form. Rahm was coming in 2023 as a Masters champion. Hovland was coming in, having won the FedEx Cup. Two guys, obviously Hovland is nowhere near that level now. He got a win earlier on in the season, but he's nowhere near reaching those heights. You look at the leaderboard from the BMW PGA at Wentworth from 2023 to 2025, and the difference is stark. Obviously, there's a few worries on the American side, but I think there's even more in Europe for me. Obviously, Rasmus missed the cut at Wentworth. Various others were down the field. Straka didn't even play. Uh, and that's a worry for me. I do have worries surrounding specifically Morikawa and Xander Schauffele on the American side, if I had to name two. But the rookies on the American side that you would normally think possibly a reason not to back the Americans with the home advantage, because there's so many rookies in the side. They're the guys who are playing the best golf all year, especially JJ Spawn and the likes of Ben Griffin. Uh, those guys are coming in, and if I was a European, I wouldn't want to be playing them. So I don't entirely agree with Joe that they've got the strongest side, and I think a home advantage will obviously help. But the main reason, as I laid out in my preview a couple of weeks ago, is that I think Bradley's decision not to play will galvanise this team to the nth degree. When you look back at previous Ryder Cups where their motivation, Team USA's motivation has been questioned at times, and whether they have the hunger and the desire that the same as what the Europeans have for this event, that they definitely don't. But this time around, seeing what happened to Keegan Bradley the last time in 2023, he sacrificed a spot for one of those six guys that he picked. It's as simple as that. He was strong enough and good enough, and the American side would be better with him on it. And for him to sacrifice that spot, so-called for the greater good, I think that will be the defining decision or the defining moment of this Ryder Cup, and that's why I think it'll slightly favour the Yanks.
It's interesting, Joe, because we know that the Americans haven't travelled well over here at all for a couple of decades now. But if you take out effectively the singles at Medina, because looking at 2008 Valhalla, the Americans won 16.5, 11.5. That's the lowest margin of victory in their last three wins. They, of course, went into the singles at Medina with a commanding lead, which they squandered. They went into the afternoon session on the Saturday with an even bigger lead. At Hazeltine, it was 17-11, and then they absolutely wiped the floor with Team Europe at Whistling Straits just a couple of years ago. And, I always wonder if there's some recency bias when it comes to Europe traveling to America, where because we're galvanized by a dominant win, as was the case after Paris, the reality is when we go over there, it's really, really tough. So, I won't be having a bet here because I'll obviously be on course very much cheering for Team Europe. But what is it that makes you think that we can buck the trend, I guess?
Well, we both have 12 players in each team, and we've got 12 players that play on the PGA Tour, there's no difference. Most of these players are living their life in that over that side of the world. Okay, I know we've got
Yeah.
Rasmus, obviously, who's the rookie, but they're playing these golf courses week in, week out, and we've got multiple major winners on our side too. Where for me, I completely agree with Noel. The four rookies this year are probably above average. But if I go through the two teams of 12 and then put a tick next to the players that have a course fit, I actually have this down to 8-4 to Europe. I don't think it suits many players past Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, JJ Spawn, and Sam Burns. I'm just not convinced enough by the other players. There is something, I suppose, in the motivation for the Ryder Cup as well. The European motivation and the background for the Ryder Cup, it just seems to come very, very natural, like we've almost discussed. But for the Americans, it almost seems like it's manufactured motivation because I just feel like our players look more up for it. They feel more up for it. It's much more of an emotional win. I don't feel that from the American team. Now, whether or not that's because I am European, I watch more of the European side of things, then fair enough. But for me, I just feel like we're the players that are going in here in better form season long. Again, I understand what Niall's saying with regards to some of the top players, especially JJ Spawn. But for me, Russell Henley isn't going to strike fear into anyone at this long golf course. Cam Young certainly will. He's definitely an interesting player. Harris English, I couldn't think of a worse course fit personally for this week. Ben Griffin is another. I just don't think this golf course suits him. So if I'm going course fit to players, there are more for me on the European side quite heavily that have us lean, that has me leaning in that favour. And I'm not, again, it depends how you want to look at it, whether you look at it the way I am or the way Niall looks at it, because they're both perfectly reasonable explanations. But ultimately, this is about pride, and I think the Europeans have got it all this year.
Yeah, and just before we do move on from this market, Joe, I should have mentioned at the top of the show, in Bethpage Black, we have a course that is very long.
Yes.
All reports are that
Yeah.
the rough is going to be not particularly penal, and it's going to be a course where you can basically spray it, but get as far down as you possibly can. What kind of player are you after?
No, I disagree. You can't spray it.
Ooh.
There's a few holes where you have to be on one side of the hole or the other. They've actually made quite a few changes this year as well. If you look at the card on the DP World Tour and on the PGA Tour, it will tell you that the opening hole is a par four at 430 yards long. It's not actually the case. They've moved the tee forward 33 yards. Now, the reason they've done that is just to allow a bit of space for the crowd behind. Now, but why that's interesting, especially on the first hole, is because usually you'd find them hitting a hybrid or a three wood up here, then having a mid iron into the green. But the fact that this hole is now down to 397, if you take a direct line from tee to green, if my calculations are right, this now means the front edge is only 337 or 338. If you look at some of the players, you probably got Rory, DeChambeau, maybe Cam Young that can actually reach this. You've also got 320 to the front edge of the fairway on a direct route as well. So some of the players like McIlroy, Cam Young, and Bryson are going to be hitting driver off this first tee. But again, this goes back to my theory why it doesn't suit the USA players as much, because Russell Henley, Harris English, Ben Griffin, these players aren't going to get anywhere near that. So if we start fast with the players that we've got, it looks like this course to me is going to be a major advantage our way. Look, it is set up like a major championship. It's quite long, narrow fairways, fairly thick rough, elevated greens, fast greens, all the rest of it. But there's plenty of holes on this golf course, especially the par fives, where our players will be able to reach in two. And I wouldn't say even half of the American team can. So look, I think there's a lot of advantages right here for Europe. But again, they've got to go out there and play the right golf, of course. But that's the plan anyway.
Yeah, a couple more price boosts up on the PricedUp page. We'll talk about now. They've boosted both USA and Europe to lead after every day and win the Ryder Cup. So the kind of Ryder Cup equivalent of going wire to wire. They've got Europe at 7-2 to do that, and the USA at 3-1. And Niall, I know that 3-1 is one you're keen on.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you can put you, the importance of this first foursomes game on Friday is absolutely massive. And it has been in previous years. 2023, of course, Europe won 4-0, foursomes in Rome. 2021, USA won 3-1. And in 2019, Europe won 4-0. So they've been dominated by the home side in the last three or four Ryder Cups, and well, I'm not quite as confident that USA will dominate the foursomes this time around. But I think it's a massive session, the very first one, and whoever gets the lead could be hard to beat over the course of the week. But I do fancy the Yanks to get an edge early. Across, I really do like them in the four balls. I think Bryson and Cam Young, who I've got a sneaking suspicion could possibly go in both games on Friday. It wouldn't surprise me that if they go on foursomes as well. They use the same ball, and they've got two explosive games, and both of them will love that first hole, to be fair. But uh, either way, I do fancy USA to get the better of day one. I fancy them over the course of the week, so I would kind of think that. But when we're talking about punters getting involved now, are many going to be licking their lips at back and 4 to 6? It's unlikely. It doesn't really suit many punters. But the 3 to 1 there, the lead after day one, day two, and day three is a lot more enticing bet. And maybe if you fancy Europe, that's the way to go as well. But for me, the 3 to 1 about USA to lead to 3 days is a lovely bet.
It doesn't chop and change too much, does it either? As well, it's like you said. Now,
it's a momentum event these days. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah.
Just
So
looking at
it's a
now,
peanut price.
that was a winner in 2021. It was a winner in 2016. It was a winner in 2008. So effectively, in all three of those, the USA put themselves out in front early, and it would have been a winner. You know,
In Medina too.
in Medina, they were 10-6 up going to the singles. So you've basically got in three events or in four events where America would have been heavy odds on going into it, or like they are now. You've got three that have copped at 3 to 1, and one that's gone probably 5 on. So
Yeah.
I mean, even shorter probably. So yeah, I mean, it looks if you are that way inclined. Whereas I don't know, maybe if you're the away side, it's harder to go wire to wire, especially with the ability to get something going in front of the home crowd. Let's move on to the pair markets because I reckon we could probably do this podcast for about 4.5 hours if we wanted to, but alas, we don't have the time, and they're not paying us enough to do it. So yeah, we'll get on to a market and a bet that you guys both agree on. Top US point scorer, Scotty Scheffler is 11 of 4 favourite. Unsurprisingly, Bryson DeChambeau 6 to 1, Xander Schauffele 7 to 1, Patrick Cantlay 15 to 2, Russell Henley 9 to 1. Cameron Young 11 to 1, Sam Burns 11 to 1, Morikawa 12 to 1, Thomas 12 to 1, Griffin 18 to 1, Spawn 22 to 1, Harris is 25 to 1. I always think these markets are interestingly priced because, in my mind, they should be priced up on who is likely to play loads rather than who is the best golfer, and I think often that isn't necessarily the case. But here, you've both fallen on the same player, and that is Bryson DeChambeau, who priced up a boosting out win only. To 8 to 1, win only in this market. Why keen on Bryson, Joe?
I mean, he like I said, he's the player for me in the American squad that I think the Europeans are going to fear the most. I know we've got the world number one in Scotty Scheffler, but again, course fit for this week, it's Bryson DeChambeau all over. He's obviously got that length as well. When you're playing these sort of tournaments, whether it's foursomes, four balls, or even on the singles on Sunday, having his length is just a huge advantage. It always is in match play. So from the very first tee, when you're coming up against Bryson, there's a little bit more emphasis on you having to play well. Whereas if you're playing someone with an average length, say Xander Schauffele or Colin Morikawa, it's pretty much iron for iron most of the way around. But you're losing a lot of distance on Bryson. Again, if Bryson ends up coming up against someone like Sepp Straka, for example, we are going to struggle big time. Like I said, this first hole, he can probably go for the green, Bryson, or near enough, where Sepp Straka is going to have to keep to the straight line of the fairway before coming across the dogleg. So, look, you wouldn't want to be playing Bryson at this sort of golf course. He's prolific at these sort of US Open style layouts as well. So, I'm sure Niall's probably going to echo a very similar situation there, but you're going to fear him if you're on the tee with Bryson this week.
Yeah, I've gone a little bit further and tipped them up as top overall simply because I like the Americans so much this week. So got nearly double the price, around 14s with 4 places. I think's an even better bet. I really do fancy him to go with Cam Young in the 4 balls. I think that's almost a certainty. But as I've said, Scheffler will, I think, undoubtedly go 5 matches. It's very, very bloody tempting for Keegan Bradley to stick in Bryson DeChambeau in 5 matches too,
Hmm.
because he's clearly by far and away the second best golfer on the team. And as Joe says, the course is really going to suit DeChambeau. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes with Cam Young in the foursomes as well. I would love to see Scheffler and DeChambeau partner up again. I
Oh,
really would. I think that would
it
be
would be
absolutely
amazing.
brilliant. And I wouldn't rule it out either, even though Scheffler's obviously got a partner in Hanley. How often that goes, and does he partner with Burns again? I don't know.
That's what I think. I think he'll go with Burns. I think he'll go with Burns. And I didn't really think about it until you said, but Bryson and Cam Young would be, oh, that'd be a magical pairing, wouldn't it? If they're on your
Well, they
team, of
both play the
course.
same. They both play the same ball as well, which is a
Yeah.
big help. I think they're an absolute certainty to go in four balls, but I would really love them to go in foursomes too. I think it would be a great
Mm.
combination there as well. Uh, the one slight worry, if anything, about Scheffler is that could his putter let him down at some stage? A club that, definitely won't let Bryson DeChambeau down. You know, obviously Scheffler's putting's improved so much over the last year or year and a half, but you know, if there's any club this week that could cost you a half point or a full point at some stage, it could be the putter, which isn't really the case for Bryson. And having the home guy and Cam Young beside him for for two four ball matches, I think I'll be very surprised if they don't play two four balls together. Uh, yeah, it could prove quite fruitful, and it leads me on to another bet in Cam Young, top rookie.
Hmm.
He's, I think there's around 5-2 out there.
He's 11 and 5 with priced up.
Yeah, that's shortened even more from when I looked earlier on.
Hmm.
Uh, well, top overall rookie. I've backed him. That might be top
Well,
American
that's top
rookie you were looking
USA.
at,
Yeah,
George.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Top overall
top
5 to 2. Yeah,
overall.
yeah.
Yeah, top overall is a bit bigger. Obviously, five rookies take part this year. Rasmus Højgaard's going to do very well to figure in that market, considering he'll only play 2 games across Friday and Saturday. I'm sure max. He definitely. I can't see him playing three. Uh, Spawn's not a bad price in this market either. He could go well around this track, just as kind of that US Open type uh, game. But my preference really is for Cam Young, and partly because the partnership with Bryson DeChambeau that I think will play out. Uh, when you look at the form over the last 3 months, uh, Young's the fourth best golfer in the squad, and obviously his recent form is just tremendous. And I think with the atmosphere, uh, it's obviously going to test a lot of golfers. I think it'll particularly test on the European side. Terrell Hatton and John Rahm, who'll play together, and I think there could be a target because of the live golf thing as well. So they will come under a lot of pressure from the crowd. And I think Cam Young, you know, I tipped him up and we backed him whenever he wanted to win them there just over a month ago. And you know, did his heart rate go above 50 all day? I don't know, but it certainly didn't look like it was going above 50 when he held the winning putt anyway. I think that's what quite annoys a lot of people. We waited years and years for this Cam Young victory, and there was absolute zero reaction. But that could go really well. That could go down really well with this cauldron of atmosphere this week. So it's another string to his bow this week in New York. So yeah, around 5-2, anything to 3-1 out there, I think's a lovely bet and the top rookie overall.
Yeah, a few bets in there. Cam Young, 5 to 2, as Niall says, top rookie. And Bryson DeChambeau, 11 to 1 with priced up for top point scorer. I mean, on this note, just quickly to mention Scheffler, because he's 4 to 1 in the top point scorer market, which has kind of come in from 11 to 2, 6 to 1 earlier in the week. I think it just seems like a massive bit of each way thievery, really, when you've got a guy. It feels like the only way that Scotty Shefford wouldn't play 5 games in Marco Simeone was if he lost 9 and 7 in the third session, and he did, and therefore sat out. And it's kind of forgotten in a way because what happened afterwards, he came back out after that and tied his singles match with John Rahm on the Sunday, which shows some resilience. And since the Ryder Cup was last played in the USA, he's won 19 events. He hadn't won any prior to the last one. So yeah, I don't know. It feels to me like there's an inevitability about this being if USA do go and win it, this could be the Ryder Cup where it was the same with Rory, it was the same with Tiger. It seems to take these elite mindset golfers a bit of time to kind of get the Ryder Cup. And after the heartache and what he experienced in Italy, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is when that happens. He is 14-1 with PricedUp to win all 5 of his points. So if you think this is going to be a Scotty show, then that could be the way to play this. Looking at the top European point scorer, Rory McIlroy is the 18-5 favourite. John Rahm 21-5, Fleetwood 5-1, Oberg 15-2, Hatton 17-2, Hovland 17-2, Fitzpatrick 13-1, McIntyre 13-1, Lowry 16-1, Rose 18-1, Straka 25-1, Hogard 40-1. Niall, anything for you here?
Yeah, I've backed Robert McIntyre. Obviously, this, if one bet's down this week in your tips, kind of, they're all almost down. You know what I mean? I'm backing McIntyre top overall. If Europe go on to win the Ryder Cup, their big stars need to play well. Your McIlroy needs to play well. Hovland and Aberg need to go again and win points, which will more, if they win the Ryder Cup, that will have happened because they can't win it without them. But if they don't win it, which I think's a big possibility, I'm backing Robert McIntyre, top European. He went unbeaten in Rome on debut, 2.5 points from 3. And obviously this year he almost won the US Open. He was there at the death. And I think he's just made for the big occasion, even better equipped for this kind of atmosphere and this kind of test. I think he'll absolutely relish the Ryder Cup in years to come. And hopefully he'll be a big part of Team Europe across the next decade or so. Part of the reason as well is I think Hatton and Rahm, who are certain to play together at least twice, could come under serious pressure here, and I don't quite think Rahm's in the kind of form that'll see him lift, 2 or 3 points this week. I'm quite down on his chances across the week, so I prefer McIntyre. Will he go with Rose and foursomes? Quite possibly. It's whether he's given a 4-balls game as well, which is crucial. And if he does go, I wouldn't be surprised, because McIntyre is the recent rookie, or the recent guy with that rookie experience about how he was dealt with in Rome with Justin Rose. Is he given that role this time with Rasmus Højgaard and the 4-balls? Just because his the recency with his being a rookie in Rome, he might have quite a bit to offer in that, and I think he might just play a different role this time around. I think, wasn't he second in points and qualifying points, I think, in the European team? So, yeah, I think he's everything going for him. Could play a bigger role than what the market's making out.
Joe, you're keen on Tommy's chances. 5-1 top European and 11-1 top overall.
Yeah. I mean, look, I actually considered it's like Niall said, whichever side of the whichever team you're backing, you're going to have to try and find an overall player that side. And Bobby McIntyre is a really interesting pick as well. He's actually up toward number 9 as well, so he fully deserves a crack at all 5 games. But the one I'd come down on is Tommy Fleetwood. Again, I've numbered the squads 1 to 5 this year, and for me, he comes out at number 2. Of course, he's finally broke that maiden on the PGA Tour by winning the Tour Championship. In his last 4 events, he finished tied 4th, tied 3rd, and then tied 1st. And I just feel that with Fleetwood, he's had the world of golf on his shoulders this year, telling him how he's not won a tournament. He's yet to win a tournament. It didn't seem to affect his game at all. He was really consistent. His irons have just been superb from start to finish this year. And for me, he, outside of McIlroy, he is the one that you've got to consider for the top overall points. I'm staggered by 14-1. Is it 12, 14-1?
11-1 with PricedUp.
Still, I think it's a really big price for the European number 2, in my view. And I expect him to have a massive week here. I do, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a bet here. I've backed Hatton, but kind of for the reasons that Niall said, or kind of the other side of it, where we can be pretty confident he's going to go out with Rahm. They had a great record in Italy, and if they do start well, he's got to be the one there where he can easily play all 5. If things go well. And yeah, he's priced up as a much bigger price than his partner Rahm, who's second fav. He's been in unbelievable form this season. Seems to relish the Ryder Cup and did okay at Bethpage.
I just don't agree. I just don't agree with Rahm's price, if anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't agree with it.
It kind of almost feels like there's a chance
he went off joint
fav.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
went off joint five with McIlroy at BMW. I couldn't understand it either. Like it was a bit different on exchanges, like, but it was 11-2 the pair basically
Mm.
for BMW. You know, it was 11-2 v 11-1 for me. I couldn't believe the way it was priced, and then it's the same this time around. They're both kind of the same price in the top European market, and I don't quite bad. I don't think Ram's in the
Well,
same kind
you,
of form that he was in 2023 to play all five matches. Never mind win a few of them.
yeah, I'd echo that hugely, and I'd say the same with Hatton. I'm Hatton's biggest fan, but I'm starting to feel the 3 rounds on live is affecting them on the tour as well. Because I noticed with Hatton, for example, every fourth round in his last 5 tournaments have been 70 plus. It's 3 rounds good and then struggling in the fourth. They're going to have to play sort
Uh-oh.
of 5 rounds this week, aren't they? Whereas Fleetwood, for example, was absolutely flying. Like Niall said, much bigger price than John Rahm, and he's got a much better record than him as well. He's unbeaten, for example, in the singles and foursomes.
Yeah,
Tommy Fleetwood.
I'd make Fleetwood second favorite too in the European
Yeah,
market. To
Mm.
be fair,
especially on this season again as well. It's just it's big price for Fleetwood.
Right, we're coming to an end now. Before we let you go, I know you put up a couple of correct scores in this market here, but what I'm going to ask you both for your prediction for a correct score, and I'll give you the price with PricedUp. So you, as you've given a couple, Joe, you can tell us yours first.
Yeah, so look, I'm on side with Europe. We may as well go heavy on the score as well. 15-13 and 16-12 to Europe, please.
15-13. I should have looked at these before we started, probably. Would have helped. 15-13 is 12-1. And what was the other one?
16-12 and 15-13.
And 16-12 we have got
sorry.
at that's harder to search given there are a lot of 16-1s around.
Couple of
14
points
to 1.
bigger.
14 to
perfect.
1, yeah. 12-1 and 14-1. Niall?
17-11 USA.
17-11, 16-1. No, that is the European price. 14-1.
Huge.
14-1. 14-1 still. So there we go. Thank you very much to Joe and to Niall for sharing their tips, thoughts, and insight with us ahead of the Ryder Cup. It is nearly upon us. It gets cracking on Friday. I'll be there on Saturday and Sunday. So if you hear some cries of mashed potato, that won't be me. But to enjoy the golf, make sure you sign up for a PricedUp account if you haven't got one already over at PricedUp.bet. There is a link in the show description. Brilliant prices, as we say. Great price boost throughout the weekend too. They boosted the guys, a couple of the guys' tips there as well in Bryson. And in USA going to wire to wire and a couple of others. So do sign up and get your bets on there. And check out oddschecker for your fixed odds betting needs, including Joe and Niall's tips over there. Enjoy the weekend. It should be an absolute cracker. I know I will. And we'll speak to you again soon. Please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.